Hey folks, welcome back to the Water Change Companion. This is Pecktec, and I'll be talking to John from KG Tropicals today. Before I get started, I'd like to say a quick shout out to my Patreons who help make this show possible. Your help makes doing this so much easier and so much better. I really appreciate it, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. John's a character. I've known him for a long, long time. He and I have been back and forth on a bunch of different things and collaborated a bunch of times. So I was really, really excited to get him in here and have a long talk with him. Next time I'd like to get Lisa in here too. I got a chance to get to know Lisa a little bit better at Aquashella. But since I want to do an all-girls show next time, maybe I'll bring her in and she can do a solo and John can sit on the sidelines for a while. All right, I won't keep you waiting anymore. Here we go. John from KG Tropicals. John, I'm so pleased to have you on here with me. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you for including me in this. I've watched the others, and I'm very glad to be included in this series that you're doing. It's a lot of fun.
Well, I wanted you in here all along. When I originally started this, I was going to do 10 of those videos. And after about 4 of them, I quickly realized that the amount of editing and stuff was going to be about a month of just like trying to edit in between all the other stuff. And then, I don't know, life got kind of complicated. So I just decided that I'd cut it off at 5, but you were always on my list. And I wish I'd reached out to you a little bit sooner to let you know.
Oh, that's okay.
I've kind of gone into this turtle shell sort of mode in the past few months, and I haven't been really great about communicating with anyone at all. So, but you and I have not spoken very much since. I guess the last time we met in person wasn't Aquashella. I don't think I saw you there. It was the Big Fish deal, 2019.
Well, let's see.
Or did you go to Aquashella?
I went to Chicago, and I think I saw you there, didn't I?
Oh, okay. Maybe it was there.
There's
so many people there. It was kind of. I didn't go to the last aquatic experience.
Okay. I mean, they all blend together, so it's like, were you there? I don't know, but yeah, Chicago, 2019.
Well, last time we chatted was at the Big Fish deal. I think sat in the hallway with some other people and just kind of shot the stuff.
You forget about the part where I came in and sat on your lap when I first got there. That you might not remember that, but
the good old days, the before times.
back when we could be in the same room together back in those days.
And hug and
right. I didn't know
John's favorite
this kind of interview.
It's an exposed interview.
There we go.
We're working our way up to the hotel room. No.
Oh boy.
So John, a little backstory for the folks at home. John was probably the first fish YouTuber that I met in person. The only other person I'd ever met that had the same kind of dual hobby of keeping fish and also making videos about it and telling anyone who'll listen. So we got together to go to the Aquatic Experience in Chicago, and we shared a hotel room together so we could both save a little cash because Chicago's expensive, and had pizza, and we did all the stuff. And then John got to experience what severe sleep apnea is like for someone. And it was just it was basically me making like rhino sounds all night long. Just probably worst snoring you ever heard in your life.
I've never heard anything like that in my life. I mean, I grew up, my father was a snorer, and I could hear him like from across the house, but it was a completely different tone and a completely different style of snoring than yours. I'd seriously never seen or never heard anything like it, and I've still got nightmares about that from time to time.
To this day.
I did not sleep the entire weekend, thanks to you.
So John, like when I got back, I was doing some videos for work. I work in IT, and they had asked for some like instruction videos about how to contact the help desk, and I wanted to do a whoa, you okay?
Sorry about that.
Sorry. So I wanted to do a video about how if you called me in the middle of the night, what you'd find, or if you send an email. We had this problem where people were sending emergency emails, which is the most stupid thing I've ever heard. You know, they got an emergency, they're going to send me an email.
Right.
So I did a little example of what the way their email would be received at 2 a.m. So I was just going to film myself sleeping, and me being, you know, wanting to be authentic. I just set up my camera with the night vision, and I filmed myself sleeping. And so somehow I managed to get to sleep with this camera running. And I'm sitting there, and next day I'm sitting there in my editing bay, and I'm just kind of fast forward till I go to sleep, and I'm watching it. I was mortified. Like I was like, oh my god, am I dead? Did I just die and come back to life? I mean, I would just
Oh,
stop breath, be like, and then make a sound and stuff. It was terrible and scary and stuff. So I went the next day to the doctors, and I got a CPAP machine, and now my life's really changed a lot for the better. So
well, that's good. I'll never get those 2 nights back, but that's good. I'm glad you worked it out because yeah, it was terrifying. It really was. And the thing is, the hotel room, I mean, that hotel we stayed in was really nice and it had 2 rooms. So I was in the next room and it was still almost like you were right here in my face doing that all night. And I'm a super light sleeper to begin with. So yeah, that was, I love you, but I'll never share a hotel room with you again. It's not going to happen.
now I make no noise whatsoever, and I get to bug my wife if she snores. Come
Nice.
on, I put this thing on my face every night. You can do that.
Karma is, you know what?
So, and do you recall the aquatic experience back then?
Oh
And
yeah,
the YouTuber or fish tuber presence back then was
all 6 of us.
yeah. I ran around. I interviewed everyone I could find. I think you ran around and did like a compilation about acclimating fish, if I
Right.
remember correctly. So it
Yep.
was like a bunch of people's opinions. It's a great video too, by the way.
Thank you.
And Joey shot nothing. Rachel shot nothing.
Hmm.
Or he did a little bit of a vlog. I think he did a little bit of a vlog or something, but it wasn't much of a video at all. So uh, and now when you go, there's a booth, and there's what 50, 60 people there,
Hmm.
all doing the same kind of thing, and I just think it's remarkable how much that's changed. I remember writing Dustin. I wrote Dustin, and I asked him a long time ago. I was like, we should do a convention that's all people that do aquarium videos and stuff. And I think he replied, "Is like, who would want to go to something like that?" Now there's
Yep.
Aquashella, which is that thing, that very thing. So I think
Absolutely.
it's funny how times change in it.
It
Uh,
is. I mean, I had a lot of fun, even though that was a completely different type of show than the things that we have now. Even future aquatic experiences, it was still a lot of fun. I mean, it wasn't. I think there was 6 of us. I think I counted, and Rachel wasn't even really a YouTuber yet. It was me,
Not
you,
really. No.
Joey, Dustin, Rachel, and Rob from Flip Aquatics, and he was just kind of getting started too. So that was it. I mean, there wasn't anybody else there that was YouTube, so we were still kind of walking around, and people at the booths were like, "What's YouTube?" So it was still a very new thing. It was 2015. It wasn't that terribly long ago, but it was long enough ago that the old timers in the fish industry had no clue what YouTube was.
Wow, that's just 6 years. That's all it was.
Yep.
That feels like another lifetime ago. I mean, it really does. I mean, I didn't know any fish people either. Like Oliver Knott was there. I didn't know who Oliver Knott was. I
Yeah, I
learned
didn't
after I
either.
got home, and I went, "Why didn't I interview Oliver Knott?
Hmm. Yep,
I'll
I
never
was in
be
the
in the
presence
same
of
room with him
greatness.
again." I
Yep.
know. I'll never be in the same room with him again, probably. But
Chris
But it
Lukup was the
was,
same way. I mean, he was there too. You introduced me to him, and I was like, "What makes
who's that?
him the Shrimp King?" Like, I was like, "Super nice guy, really cool, but like, why is he the king? I've never heard of him. He can't be a king." But of course, now I'm like, he is a god to me. So, um,
He was the
yeah,
king from a region unknown.
right, exactly.
The only heavy metal star I know that does fish keeping.
I know, I know. I have. I was having a conversation with him one night on Facebook, and one of my kids came in, and I was like, "Let me show you something about this guy." And I pulled up some of the videos of him with the band on YouTube, and they were like, "No way, that's him." Yeah, he was a
What's
bad, you
funny
know
is if
what?
you Google, yeah, well, if you Google Sean Peck, there's another one in California, and he sings. He's a metal singer for a band called Cage,
Okay,
and he's like the first two pages of Google is this guy. So I decided it'd be fun to look him up. So I looked him up on Facebook. We have all this stuff in common. We're good friends,
oh, how
and
about
so
that?
we confuse the hell out of my family and stuff because he'll comment on things that I say and I'll comment on stuff that he says, and people are like, "Are you talking to yourself?"
Sean, we knew you were
Yeah.
different, but ooh, that's a bit extreme.
So I heard that. So you're gonna. I want to say congratulations on your speaking engagement at Aquashella in Florida. Is it Orlando?
Yep, absolutely. Literally
So what do
just
you?
found that out the other day.
Yeah, I saw that. Well, what are you going to talk about? Do you know?
Well, I said I wasn't going to say, but
Oh,
you know what?
that's right.
No, you know what? It doesn't really matter because you said this probably isn't going to go up until June. So by then
Oh
it'll
yeah.
it'll have already happened anyway. Originally, I was working on a talk just because I said in my stream, this has been a lifelong thing that I've wanted to do, and I can't even really explain why. It's just maybe it's an attention thing. I don't know, but I've just always wanted to be in front of a room and present something. And so I started working on a talk. This is not what we're going to do, but it was going to be the religion of fish keeping. And it's basically there's no insult intended towards religious people at all, but it was
Right.
more we are so fanatical about fish that we take it almost to the level of a religion. And that's what I was going to talk about when it was just going to be me. And I was talking with Aquashella about it, and that's what I was presenting to them, and they were like, "That sounds great." And then they hit me up just the other day and said, "We got a spot for you. Do you want to do it?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Lisa's going to be up there too, right?" And I was like, "Oh." So we've actually changed it, and it's going to be something that her and I could talk about uh, without even thinking. It's going to be couples in fish keeping. That's going to
Oh,
be the benefits and how it affects our relationship and all of that, and maybe even some pointers as to how to get your significant other into the hobby with you. So that's the bulk of it, and then we'll probably try to briefly tell our story in the beginning, and then open it up to Q&A or whatever after that. So should be fun.
that might be worth like trying to get Holly down there too.
Hey, see, there you go.
Now,
I mean,
Holly,
it's a question. Oh, Siri just opened up on me because I said that word. I don't know, but I get
said
asked
the S
that
word.
all the time. How you're so lucky to have Lisa in the hobby with you. How did you do that? And so it was only natural to want to do that kind of a talk for it. So hopefully I
You know,
can help others.
I thought with Holly, she would, if I just kept putting aquariums everywhere, eventually she'd be really fascinated by.
Well,
And I think kind of what's holding me back though is that I won't get her the fish that she really wants. Like she wants an Oscar really, really, really bad. And I know you love them and stuff.
I
I think
do.
I also think that they're amazing fish. And but I don't have a ton of room. You know, like I have more room upstairs. I'm not going to put a tank that I could put an Oscar in upstairs, right? Like
Right.
kind of the safe limit from stuff that I've read is like maybe 75 gallons, and you're kind of pushing your luck, with that. So, um, I just don't like. I put my big aquarium in, but then I put plants and all this other stuff in it, and I've seen what Oscars can do to like. I've
Oh, you're
seen them
not
at the
having
store with
plants.
the gravel all on one side of the
Hmm.
because they just dig and dig and dig. So
Yep.
until I take all the stuff out of my 210 and just have fish in there and nothing else, or something big like you've got behind you there, um, I probably can't do an Oscar. So I've had to tell her that over and over again. I think until I let her get one, then she's never going to want to keep a fish. And probably when I did get one, she'll still have me cleaning the tank. So it's a
Yeah.
loose bet.
I
I'm
mean
relieved of
that.
all cat duties, so it's kind of
Well, there you
it's a
go.
good toss.
That's kind of how it happened for us, except I did cave and got her what she wanted, and it was only because I desperately wanted her in the hobby with me. I mean, I
Right.
don't know how it is for you, but I don't have any aquarium people around me, so
Oh yeah.
it's me and me alone, and so to have her in it with me was like that would have been the ideal thing for me. So um, I bent and got her what she wanted back then. So that worked. Now she's got more tanks than I do. So um, yeah, sometimes you just got to bend a little, even if it is for an Oscar.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of fish buddies, and the ones that I know of now, I just met like within the past like a little bit before COVID. So like the channel Fish Room Fever is in
Mhm.
Knoxville. He's here. He's been over the house a couple of times and stuff. We played some board games and built an
Nice.
aquarium over here and stuff. And he's a real super nice guy. But you know, the lockdown happened and we kind of lost a lot of connection. So now I just kind of watch their live stream. And Chattanooga Ed is not real far away and stuff, but I mean that's still like more than a decade of just kind of sitting here on my own doing
Mhm.
stuff.
Yeah.
There's plenty of people to talk to online, I guess, but it's different than having somebody there in your life that's really interested in it. I think.
Yeah. Yep. It's definitely. I mean, I'm extremely fortunate. I mean, I've got friends, again, online friends that will message me and be like, I wish I had what you have. And it's not like, I wish I had Lisa. It's not weird like that. It's more like, I wish my wife would be involved in it like I am, but she's doing her completely other thing and we never see each other. But so it is, I'm very, very lucky not only to have her involved in the hobby with me, but also the business and everything else. I mean, she does it all with me. So, and it's not even she's doing it with me. We're doing all of it together. So it's a beautiful thing.
So you've mentioned before, you and Lisa have actually had a couple of business ventures together. Is that right?
Well, I mean, the KG Tropicals thing is, I mean, that's been up and down the whole time. But we did have my furniture business, our furniture business, that we also both worked with, which is what I did for over 20 years. I did that before I met her, and my ex-wife helped me with it. And then I was single for a bit, and then I met Lisa, and it wasn't right away, but it was like 4 or 5 years later. She started helping me with that business, and then so yeah, I mean, her and I have been working together, self-employed, since 2010. I think it is when we both were doing that. So yeah, we're both very much ambitious and business minded.
Holly and I met at work. I hear so many people going, I couldn't work with my spouse or stuff like that. Holly and I met at work. We were photographers, and we were young, and I was actually married to someone else for like the first couple of weeks we met. Sounds
Hey,
terrible, but they put us in a dark room together
oh,
under the red light. I'm pretty hot, so
well,
it's,
yeah.
anyway, yeah, no, I literally, I did nothing with Holly before I divorced the devil I was married to prior, and she was a devil from hell. If you're
Oh,
watching this,
I hate you.
Oh my god.
No, I'm just kidding. But well, I'm about half kidding. But anyway, so I literally broke up with Satan in the next room while Holly was trapped in the dark room and couldn't get out. And I was in there. And I was like, she was one of those that would want to chew you out in public. I'm
Oh,
getting way personal here, but at least it's me, right?
that-
So she would want to chew you out in public, and she would, and we worked. Me and this lady worked together. Now, here's a great example of people that can't work together. Me and my ex-wife. So we were having lunch at this conference room table with all these people, and she just starts going off on me. Just was like dressing me down and saying all this stuff, and I was like, you know what? I've had enough. This Holly girl over here is always nice to me. I'd really like to date her, but I can't do that until this until Satan's gone. And I didn't realize that I could have someone better. And I don't mean have like a ownership thing, but I deserved someone better. You know what I mean?
mhm.
So I grew a spine like all at once, and I just like I don't want therapy. I don't I don't want to think about it. I don't want anything but a divorce paper signed by you. And
Wow.
and after that, it was just like, well, I want this. It was like, will you go away? Yeah, you can have it. If you go away, you can have it. I gave her everything. She left me with a bunch of debt, a bunch of other stuff, and I worked it off and I got rid of her. And
I've
Holly and
been
I have
there.
been, yeah, and Holly and I have been married for 25 years this year. In
Wow.
December it'll be 25 years. So, and very happy,
How
very
about that?
happy. And,
Yeah,
and we,
I've been on both sides of it. I'm in this, and I'm not just saying this to like get on her good side or get brownie points. I'm in what could quite possibly be the most perfect relationship, where her and I share the same interests. We like the same musics. We like most of the same music. She listens to Lady Gaga, but uh, we're into so many of the same things, and professionally we look at things the same way. My ex-wife was the polar opposite. You know, we didn't really have things that, I'm not going to call her Satan, but she was,
wuss.
uh, hey, well, that's fine. But I mean, no, you know, we have a child together. We still get along. We're not friends, but we still get along. But
Oh,
anyway,
okay. Yeah, that's a little different.
it's not, she didn't have anything to do with the aquariums or anything like that. Didn't really care about animals at all. She didn't hate animals, but she wasn't into them like I was. And you know, didn't really like to sit down and watch a movie. It's like we didn't really have a whole lot of things that we did together. So I'm a perfect example of the grass is greener on the other side. It's like this is it's I'm lucky because she is into the
Yeah.
same things that I'm in, and I a lot of times I have to remind myself, hey, dude, you are a lucky guy. don't uh, don't forget it because I've been on the other side and it's not as fun.
I like Lisa, I like watching Lisa on your channel. I think she does a great job explaining things. In particular, there was one she did the other day. I made a note about it. She did it was a short, and she was talking about how fish can survive in poor conditions, but it doesn't mean that they're happy,
Mhm.
or that it's a worthwhile thing for them.
Just
Um,
being alive doesn't mean they're happy. I wrote
well,
that.
what?
That's how I know.
Oh, okay. So what I was wondering is, do you have friends and family outside of the fish verse that come to you because they kind of have an inkling that maybe you like fish or something like that, and ask you for
Oh
fish
yeah,
advice, but don't want to follow it?
yes, and yes, and also no. I've had several times where I've got two sisters and a brother, and my family is pretty. It spreads out pretty big, and I've had a lot of them come to me. I want to set up a fish tank. I think it's really cool. I watch all of your videos because you're my brother or you're my uncle or whatever, and I think it's really neat. I want to get my own tank, and we're like, okay, cool. You know, I mean, this is what I do for a living. I can give you a filter, and I can do this and do that, and get you all set up. And then 2 weeks later, they've completely forgotten all about it and have moved on to something else. You know, and not ever even set up the tank to begin with. It's like they're interested about it, but then they just forget. So I haven't actually had any of them like hit me up like, hey, I've got this fish. It's got white spots all over it. What do I do? I haven't had that, but uh, I've had them want to set up aquariums because they've watched what we're doing, but then never really follow through with it, unfortunately.
So that kind of leads into this next thing too. Long ago, when you were 17 years old, you walked into a fish store and fell in love. What was that fish store called? Creatures and Critters. And you
Wow.
fell
Yeah,
in love with an arowana.
I
And
did.
that was the push that you needed to get on through and 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 get into fish keeping. Um, do you think that a love of a particular creature like that is the biggest thing that kind of puts people over the hump? Like even if they got all the equipment but they haven't set it up or something, like it goes beyond. I think having a fish tank would be neat. I want to keep that. Do you think that that's the biggest driver for some people?
I personally do. I do think that. I think it's a connection to a fish usually. Now, some, it might be the beautiful aquascape. You're much more involved in aquascaping than I am. So you might look into the tank behind you and see plants first. That I think is beautiful and I love it, but that's not what would draw me in. But I think there are a lot of people like you out there that would see the plants and that would be what draws them to it. But I think the overwhelming majority are people that see a fish and for whatever reason, like the arowana did to me, like discus did for Lisa, something draws them to that particular type of fish, whether it's their just pure beauty or their personality or whatever it is, and that's what gets the whole ball rolling, which I think is actually great because I one of the biggest pieces of advice I've given for the entire duration of this channel is pick your fish first before you buy your tank and all that kind of stuff. Excuse me, so that you can buy what you need to buy to accommodate that fish. So when that happens, that's actually a beautiful thing because it works out better in the end for everybody. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think that my story is very common. I think that's the same for a lot of people. I mean, I saw it even in my own shop. I had people that would come into the shop just to say hi or whatever and see something and be drawn to it. And next thing you know, they've got a tank full of electric blue acaras, or whatever it is. And so I do. I think that it's the fish. Maybe I'm a little biased because that's what it was for me, but I think the fish draws them in, and that's what gets them into it.
So, do you think people should, when they come to that conclusion, should they buy an aquarium for a fish that will last its whole life, or is it okay to to scale up as you go?
Mm-mm. I am dead set against that. Your second scenario, meaning
Yeah.
I'm going to buy a 29-gallon right now for this Oscar, but I'm going to eventually upgrade him and keep getting him bigger tanks as I can afford them. I think that is just a massive mistake. I think uh, first of all, it's more expensive to do it that way. I know it might not seem that way, but
Hmm.
if you're going to buy a 29 and then you're going to buy a 55 and then a 90 and then a 125, if you had just bought the 125 to begin with, you would have spent a third of the money. But yeah, life gets in the way of everyone. We all have lives. We all have things that pop up. I mean, look, the world fell apart last year. Nobody saw that coming. I mean, things are going to happen that are going to make the aquarium be the last on the priority list. And I mean, fish is alive. He eats. He's swimming around. He's fine. I can keep him in there a few more months until I get my
He's
bonus.
not touching both sides yet, right?
Right? Yeah. I mean, it won't be long if it's an Oscar, but it's it's almost never works out. I mean, and doing what I used to do for a living, I would go into 8 to 10 people's homes per day to fix furniture, and I would see aquariums all the time, and it was big fish in small tanks, and we would get to talking, and it was almost inevitable every time they would say, yeah, I want to get them a bigger tank. I've been meaning to, but my daughter was born, or the water heater broke, or there's always something. And I just think
I'm out
that's
of beer.
right. Yeah, I lost money on the football game. I mean, whatever it is, there's always something that comes up. So just don't put the fish through that. Leave that fish at the store for somebody else who has the right size tank. Wait a little bit until your tax return comes in or whatever, and do it right the first time.
I mean, there are people. There are probably a few exceptions to that, and that like people like you and I, we have a lot of tanks, and like we already have. Oh,
sorry, I didn't mean that. It's forgot to turn my notifications
little tip
off.
there.
That means we got an order to the website, so it's a good sound for me. But I meant to have that off.
That's
sorry.
good. It's okay. So I think, but I guess in the case of you and I mean, we already have the tank. Like we don't put them in that tank, but we have it. When I bought my my Beischer, he was only like this big. So he floated through a couple of tanks, but I had already ordered my 210, so I guess that doesn't really count, right? Because I already bought the tank; it just wasn't there set up yet.
You get a pass.
But I man, that's so. I think I can see where that'd be so tempting for a lot of people, because you come home or you're like, oh, I want to buy an Oscar, and you get the baby ones, and they're like, they fit in your hand, they're tiny little things, and then but they're gonna need to be in. What's your minimum size for an Oscar tank? And I know that's a loaded question because of there's filtration and how many of them are in there and all that other stuff. But like one Oscar in a tank, what do you think?
I'm an Oscar snob. I've got 3 in a 360 gallon. That's way overkill. There's going to be more fish in there eventually. You can get away with a 75. I would love to be able to say let's put them in a 125, and then you can have all kinds of fun because you can give them some friends, and you never have to worry about, am I doing the wrong thing? I have kept an Oscar in a 75 gallon tank. He was thriving. He lived, I think I had him 9 years. I mean, is it perfect? No, but then again, none of us are doing perfect. I mean, because we still have live animals in a glass box. So, but I seriously believe, I've said this a million times, if you put one Oscar in a 75, you are putting that one Oscar in a much bigger tank than most people are. And that's sad, but that's the reality. I think there's probably more Oscars in 29 gallon tanks than you could probably ever even imagine.
There's this weird equation too, where you're like, is one Oscar in a 75 better than 10 Oscars and a 125 or a 200 even, it's an interesting debate there, isn't it?
It is. And it seems like Oscars are always the ones that people use as examples for stuff like that. Kind of like every time you talk about a good looking man, you talk about Brad Pitt, but Oscars are always the ones that people bring up, like, because they're just notoriously fast growers and big, and probably one of the most abused fish in the hobby that's not named betta or goldfish or catfish or pleco.
Yeah, I think goldfish and bettas really have it bad too, but I see Oscars everywhere. Mm-hmm. So you can't really tell male and female from those, can you?
I have kept Oscars since I was 19 years old, and I've never known how to tell the difference between males and females. I've probably had 40 of them in that length of time, and including some at the shop and stuff like that. But I've never known. I mean, there's so many fish that are that way. I don't know how to tell that on arowanas. I don't know. I mean, and I, to be honest, don't really care because if they all look the same. Do you not breed them? No.
Have you ever tried or anything to?
I have not, and I've never had any interest to, because with that particular kind of fish, you'd kind of be contributing to the problem,
Yeah. Well, I wonder because there's so many of them, like they must not be terribly difficult to breed because they're everywhere. I mean, they're just kind of prolific that way.
Yeah, I mean they do have to be in the top 5 of most popular fish in the hobby. And so, yeah, I mean, somebody's figured it out to get them to breed in mass numbers. That's for sure. Because, yeah, even when Walmart was selling fish, you saw them there. So, Yeah, they're out there for sure. They're not hard to find, and it works out good for me because I love them so much.
So, with your website, you've sort of re-entered. I know you had a fish store at one point, and you went through all the trials and tribulations of owning a business. I
Mhm.
also did that. I had a not a fish store, but I don't know if you even know this, but I had a photography and private investigation company. It was both things,
We've talked
and
about that. Yeah.
it I opened the business, and then I think the photography side was doing okay. Like I brought in a bunch of clients from before that I had, and then 9/11 hit, and the advertising revenues died. That's the first thing to go is art. Art and advertising is the first thing to go if an economic downturn happens, and then also I had bought a bunch of supplies for a catalog that we were going to shoot, like thousands and thousands of dollars of film. That's how long ago this was.
Mm.
And I was shooting a large format, which is it's a 4 by 5 inch negative. It's pretty large, and those cameras, like you put a little thing over your
Oh
head and you
wow.
like focus the screen. Well, back then they were great. Like, and if you think about a negative this size compared to like most people today haven't seen a 35 millimeter negative, but
Yeah, they don't
they're
even know what you're talking about.
yeah, they're little things. Where these were going to be blown up the size of a building without any grain.
Wow.
Still to this day better, and they're to this day still better than any digital photograph made.
Hmm.
So anyway, so I bought all this film. Back then it was thousands and thousands of dollars, and then all the contracts dried up. So I I've tried and failed to own a business. I know that the even working out how the taxes work and everything like that is just
Hmm.
it's I don't want to do it.
Hmm.
I just want to say no. Uh, but you managed to come out of that. Did your aquarium channel kind of were you doing videos before you were doing videos before you opened business, right?
We were
Like a
doing
little bit.
video. We were doing videos before we opened the shop, but not before we were in business because we were running the business out of our house for a couple of years before we moved into the shop. So we started the YouTube channel when we were still working out of our garage, and then it it started to really grow once we had the shop. But yeah, it was we already had KG Tropicals, but we didn't have a shop yet, if that makes sense. We were just
Right.
selling fish out of our garage, basically.
So do you feel like your videos during that time kind of gave your channel that kickstart to kind of really get it moving and
No
get that
doubt.
momentum going?
Yeah, absolutely. And that was one of the things that amazed me because I'm going to sound like one of those people right now, but I didn't have any clue of what YouTube could be. I mean, I had watched a couple of videos, a couple of Joey's videos, in fact, and I watched quite a bit of stuff that doesn't have anything to do with fish keeping. But I never looked at YouTube as something that could be built into what I'm doing with it now. I mean, I just looked at it as people share their stuff. It's almost like another Facebook, but it's only videos. I didn't know really what it was, but what I did know was I could make videos of my fish and I could put those on my website, and it's free. And so why not? I'll go ahead and video my fish. I'll put them on there. This will help us sell our fish, and for that it worked beautifully. But then all of a sudden, it's like you've got people from all over the world that are saying, "Well, hey, wait a minute. We want to know more. We want to know what you're doing and how you're doing this and how you're doing that." And that's when I started making tutorial videos, and now here we are. 10 years later almost, and 700 videos later. This is this is what we're doing for a living. So it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, you guys have a great production, a lot of production value there. How many videos a week do you make?
Well,
I mean, do you have a regular schedule that you
we do.
follow?
We do. Our regular schedule is we upload a video on Sundays, and then we have our live stream on Thursdays. But sometimes we have videos that, for whatever reason, they're not up to the par of what we would want our Sunday videos to be. Maybe it's a product review. which I think product review videos are great, but that's not what we do on Sundays. Our Sundays are the ones that are more educational, trying to teach somebody something, not, hey, look what I got. We don't want to do that on our Sunday videos. So those would go up on Tuesdays, but that's not a regular thing. That's like a bonus thing every once in a while that people get. Hopefully more coming soon. Uh, but the concrete schedule is upload a video on Sunday and the live stream on Thursday.
Did you have a particular video that really helped your channel out, like that grew you really fast early on? The first video I saw you in was your canister filter, the FX6, I guess.
Yep.
That's the first video of yours that I saw.
I'm glad that you said that, because there's actually three videos that like bumped things up a notch. You know what I mean? And that's one of them. That one would probably be the least of the three. But the FX6 video was huge for us. I mean, it did really well. I shouldn't even say us. It was just me back then. But the one before that was I did a 3-part guide to buying African cichlids, which I've actually thought about doing again, because I watch them and I'm like, oh, wow. But, we all get better with time. But that one, it was like just the basics on, hey, if you want to get into African cichlids, here's what you look for. And we were breeding and selling African cichlids at the time, so it made sense. The one that took things to the next level and got us to where we are now is our 10 things you should know about betas. We say betas in there. I say betas sometimes. I say betas sometimes.
That's fine.
Depends on the sentence. But and then we make a living selling betas too. I think I'd know how to say it. But yeah, that one, like, that was the video that when it went live, it was like I was watching it just going, what's happening? Like, just subscribers and videos or views, and it's our first video ever to hit 1 million views.
Oh yeah.
That's the one that definitely ramped things up for sure.
For me, the product videos are where, like, I made a Fluval spec video. It's kind of a funny story. Like, I bought this little tiny, it was the first Fluval spec, the little 2-gallon one that's really not good for anything. But
it looks pretty though.
Yeah, throw some plants in it. It's a nice little planter, but I guess you could keep a bed in there if you wanted to. But the so anyway, I made that video, and Fluval, I still want to call it Fluval. I'm like correcting it in my head. And I still don't know how to say it correctly. But the dude on their video says Fluval, so I've been trying to say it a little closer. So I kind of like muddle or Fluval.
It's like me saying beta beta.
Beta
I
beta.
say beta betas now. That's what I call
them. I say beta, but in my head I'm saying beta. Like somewhere in my mind I'm saying that, but I'm just training my mouth to go the other direction somehow.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they took this video that I made. Like, I bought this aquarium and I hid it. I put it on the shelf. I didn't hide it. I put it on the shelf, right? And I'd already had like 3 or 4 aquariums at this point, and I left it there, and I just waited for Holly to say something about it. Well, she didn't say anything. So like 2 weeks go by, and I was like, okay, hey, Kerrigan, help me film this video. And I gave her a camera and stuff, and I'll pull this thing. And Holly then notices that I'm doing something. And I pull this off the shelf, and she goes, where'd you get that tank? I was like, well, this has been up here for weeks. We already had that. You can't yell at me for buying it because I bought it a couple of paychecks ago.
That's hilarious.
But I made that video, and then Fluval, at the time, they had a blog. They didn't have they had kind of a website, but it was the Fluval blog, and they put it up there. So anytime you went to Fluval and looked for information on the spec, that you saw my video.
Wow.
And that, and suddenly I was an aquarium YouTuber. Like, at that point, I'd been making stuff about roller derby and like all these other things, and then all people wanted to hear about was aquarium stuff. So I started talking about my aquariums, and that's kind of how I ended up. Now it's like, even when I look now, what's funny is one of my top videos, like if I look at my I look at my top videos right now, they're you got the Fluval Flex, which we got at the same time. Remember, right around
Yep.
Christmas time. So
Yep.
that video is always my top video, almost always. Like if I do a real popular current video, it'll like beat it out. But then there's that one, and then
Right.
it's still going. Like all these years later, like it's still one of my top videos. And this pond video that I made like a video about a little pond. Like, do you know me? Like, I'm wearing a pond guy shirt, but do you know me for ponds? Like,
No.
I don't know if anybody subscribes to me off of the pond video, but every spring when it's time to make a pond, that video just goes do, 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 and it climbs right, like it's like clockwork. Every spring it comes up. In fact, I've even started linking videos I want to get more attention to the end of it, like putting them in the end screens and stuff.
Right. Smart.
But the Fluval Flex videos and the Fluval Spec videos are by far my most popular videos, and I've kind of leaned into the product stuff because it's well, frankly, you don't have to know as much.
That's true.
I mean, you need some experience, right? But I've started doing this other thing too, where I was like, well, damn, I keep getting these things, but I don't necessarily want to implement them, but I would like to talk about them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the board game in the board game universe, where I spent a lot of time, they started doing this thing with new games called previews. So a big thing now is for board games to go on Kickstarter, and these prototypes go out to these reviewers. But they're like, well, I can't really review this because one, you paid me, and two, it's a prototype and it's not finished. You know that you're going to make all these changes to it. How can I really? So they do a preview and they describe where it's at there. They show the artwork. They kind of just give their first impressions about how it might be, or just talk about it, not to sell it necessarily, but just as an informational thing. So I've taken up that's sort of my jam now with new products. No, I'm opening this and I'm giving you my first impression. That's why I haven't read people are always pissed. It's like, why don't you read the instructions first? Like, I'm never going to read those instructions. If I can figure it out without instructions, then you can too. And that's the
Right.
whole point. But, I'll open stuff. I'll kind of give my first impression and kind of look at it and say, and then I'll talk about other things I know that are similar. Like I opened some sponge filters. I know how they work.
Right.
If you're familiar with any sponge filter, you're familiar with sponge filters. So,
Right. You're an expert on them.
and the more complicated stuff, I really dig into, or and better yet, I'll use it later, and I'll say, okay, here's that thing I opened up a while ago, and now we're going to take a look at like how it really works. So, yeah, there's all kinds of, and I've tried a lot of different things. This thing I'm doing now with you, this is just something else that I felt like I could do. I want to do something else besides build an aquarium, show you all the stuff, and then forget the names of the plants, and then just show you pretty pictures.
Right. You know what?
Or
Though,
I bought a fish, or
I honestly, this is coming from my heart. There is nobody in the fish keeping community that has the freedom and the ability to do whatever it is that they want to do. There's nobody that does that better than you. I've known you for a long time. I don't have any reason to butter you up, but it's the absolute truth. You are an example of somebody that says, I'm going to do what I want to do because it makes me happy. And that's, I'm going to create what I want to create, whether I'm going to be flying around in a spaceship or I'm going to have the Walking Dead governor talking with John's voice, or whatever it is I want to do. That's what I'm going to do. I love that about your channel. And, every single YouTube expert on earth would tell you that's a mistake. You got to do what your channel demands. And there's truth to that, but it's nowhere near as fun. Being somebody that practices that, it's not nearly as fun as being able to just have the freedom to do whatever you want to do. So,
well,
and you're good at it too.
Well, I really appreciate it, and I know, like, it is so hard to start from scratch after you've been doing, like, you built a channel up for 5 or 6 years, and you're like, why can't I talk about like a board game if I want to? I did one board game review, just like the comments were just die of cancer.
Yeah, oh my
People are so mad, so mad. They were so mad that I was like, okay, I like board games enough. I can start another channel. So I started another channel to talk about it. I know you had a vape channel for a while. Are you still doing that?
I do not have the vape channel anymore because YouTube has basically shut that entire
That genre?
that entire genre down. They're still there, and there still are channels that are active and creating content, but they're not monetized, and that whole thing. Um, but yeah, I was doing that. I've actually had another channel on top of that one too, which was called KG Woodworks. I was going to start a woodworking YouTube channel. I think I made one video. I'm not sure, but I was starting that channel right around the time our shop was going, kind of going under, and it was just a lot going on, and
Yeah.
I should have never started to begin with. But as a matter of fact, that channel has now become, uh, I don't even know what the name of it is, but we use this channel now to upload videos of our fish to our website, which is weird how it came full circle like that, because that's how we started on YouTube. All of our bettas that we sell on our website have individual videos of those particular fish, and that's the channel that those videos go up on. So, um,
That's
yeah, total
smart.
of
So
three.
you can use it like a utility.
Yeah,
Uh, so you just put them up unlisted, and then just put the hyperlink of that.
yep, that's
Hmm.
exactly what it is. And the I was when we first started selling bettas on the website, I started putting them on the main site, and I just did them unlisted. But then it was a pain because we're putting 30, 40, 50 fish at a time up. So I would go to my analytics, and I would just see nothing but beta videos, and I'm like, okay, this is clogging up what I want to look at. So I just took them all off of there, put them on the other channel, and now we're making use of that channel, and people are still subscribing to it. But I'm talking about, this would be the old woodworking channel, not the vape channel. The vape channel,
Right.
I haven't made a video for that channel in, I don't know, like 3 years. I'm not sure. It was so much fun to do that, because I wanted to say this before. I hope you didn't take offense to what I said about product videos, because I love making product videos. It's probably my favorite thing to do, product reviews. But when I said, we put those up on Tuesdays because they're not good enough for the Sunday videos, we have a very particular thing that we
No,
do
no,
for
I
our
didn't
Sunday
take
videos.
offense.
Yeah, good, because it wasn't intended that
No,
way. But
everybody's got their own thing that they rather do. Like I have videos that I don't put up. Like Sunday's my big day. Like Sunday at midnight is my time. That's when my videos go live every week. I've been consistent on that for years and years and years. And I definitely have had videos where I'm like, no, this is a midweek video. You know what I mean? At best,
Mhm.
like, and sometimes it's products, and sometimes it's a topic or something like that. But I want to save my best effort for the week for that Sunday spot. And you know, you've had a tremendous amount of success with the discussions you and Lisa have back and forth on the different topics and stuff. And I think that that's really good. It'd be really neat. Like I think it'd be really neat to just have a partner like in YouTube, not just somebody that likes fish as well, but like that you could really talk to back and forth. Holly loves the aquariums and stuff and likes to see them. She doesn't have to take care of them though at all. It doesn't there's no fish that's her fish. You know what I mean? Like she doesn't have any ownership of anything. Not that she couldn't if she wanted to, but she just you know she gets the cat. I got all the aquariums are all scattered around the house and stuff. But because of that, we can't sit and banter like you and Lisa can about this topic or that topic. Should just be like, why not?
Mhm.
why not put him in a little tank? He's a little fish. Like, we will
Right.
always be a little fish. You know what I mean? So it's like, and there's all these landmines too. Do you self edit like as you speak sometimes? Like sometimes I hear comments like as I'm talking, I'm like, I can't say
Hmm.
that,
Yep.
and it's not because I don't in my heart feel like I'm being disingenuous, but you got it. Sometimes you want to perfectly phrase something to just keep a little bit of the ire away
You
from.
know what's going to happen if you don't. Yeah. I mean, you can
Yeah.
see it before it happens. Absolutely. I actually do that before we even film because our best videos, and I'm not afraid to admit this, the videos I'm actually looking at my while you were looking at your analytics, I was looking at mine, and I've actually, side note here, a little breaking news. I literally just discovered this for the first time. I have a new most watched video on my channel, which is a shocker. But it's not that beta video anymore. It's a top 10 best fish tank cleaners video is our new number one video, which is crazy. But
Hmm.
all of my top performing videos, the ones that are, what kind of put me where I am, they are all scripted, highly produced, highly edited pieces of content. They're not walking around with the camera, hey, I'm going to show you this today, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. It's more to the point, scripted, on point, segmented pieces of content. Pieces of educational content is what I like to call it. So I'll see that stuff before we film. I'll be typing it up. I literally type it in a pages document on my iMac, and I'm typing them up, and I'm like, oh no, I can't say that because if I say it that way, people are going to take it wrong. And Lisa and I do. We take chances sometimes and say fun things like, I used to feed my fish feeder fish before I had a girlfriend. I mean, we'll say fun stuff like that, but we try not to cross over, too far over the line. And if
Yeah.
there's something that is potentially going to be a problem, I'll nip that in the bud before it even gets on film. Because
What gets me are the unintentional gaffes that will set certain people off, and I don't mean gaff like I really made a mistake. More like I could have phrased something more delicately. Like I was talking about betas at one point, and I was talking about how insane at times people get over particular breeds and color morphs and stuff like that. I was like, you know what? Don't worry about any of that stuff. Just pick one you think is pretty and bring it home. If they're all, most of them have similar care requirements, so it's not like they're a whole different species or something like that. They're just different colors,
right,
and I say if you get caught up in all that, you end up spending a lot of money, in chasing a Apache, what
right,
dragon scale, this or that, and so I said that, and then I had these breeders going nuts, just like, I've spent my whole life trying to achieve this particular thing. I was like, if that's your jam, then cool, man.
right.
I'm not hating on you or anything. I'm just talking about the general consumer, like my audience. I feel like my audience, a lot of people are new, and a lot of them just bought a Fluval Flex. Or maybe they watched my video and they bought it because I liked it so much, or I made it look really pretty, or whatever it is. And then I just kind of stick around, and maybe they keep watching, or maybe they don't. I mean, I've had some people that have been watching me for years and years and years, and they're um, very loyal, and I recognize them when they comment and stuff. And then I've got a lot of new people too that they're always coming in and want to do things, but I and I've been accused too of like dumbing down um, the knowledge, but
I'm
I
the
feel
king
like
of that.
what
I'm the king of that, so I get it. I get that too.
I feel like you got to. I feel like you to reach a broader audience. I want to talk so that 95% of the people listening understand what I'm saying. Like I could get in the weeds on some of these different things and go deep, but it requires a little bit more concentration than I'm willing to give it.
Hmm.
And I think it's just easier to talk to wider groups of people. Uh, so I had a couple of other questions too. So you've got a website now. So you sort of re-entered the retail space
Right.
with your webpage. So how much better is that than a brick and mortar type
Oh,
business?
that's that's night and day.
Like
I
in my
mean,
mind, it's like infinitely better.
yeah, it definitely is. I loved having a store. Lisa loved having a store. It was wonderful, to actually know that we had regulars. We had customers that were regulars that would come in, and we knew them on a first name basis. And we have some that are still friends with us to this day. Several actually. One of them was here sitting at this table with me just the other day. Um, that was a beautiful thing. We loved having it, but there's nothing better than having what we have now, because if I want to go pack orders at 8 o'clock at night, I can do that. I don't have to be open particular times. And if
Mm-hmm.
Lisa, decides to get up late and not start working on the betta tanks until 11:30, and nobody's going to know that, and nobody's going to complain, and it's not going to be. So it's totally different. And forget about the expense side of things too. I mean, uh, not having to have a staff and not having to have insurance because the public is there, and so many things. It's night and day. I mean, Lisa's fighting me on this because she has this fantasy of having a betta store someday. But if I had my way, I know how bad this sounds, but understand what I mean by it. If I had my way, we would never be open to the public ever again. And it's not because I don't like the public. It's just because I don't want that level of pressure. I mean, I could certainly open a store and just have other people do it, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm not going to be going in there, from 10 to 7 every day, and then got to go get fish in the morning because we got to open at 10. That's not happening.
Oh, I tell you, it's a whole operating a business, be it a web business or a brick and mortar. But I think especially a brick and mortar, because there are insurance concerns, there are different taxes that you have to
Yep.
think about. There's just people walking in and out, just like more face to face interactions, which could be as much as they could be a benefit, they can also be a detriment to your day.
They certainly can.
You get some insane, homeless person who just wants to chat your ear off or something. When I was a
We
photographer, I'd have people wandering in and just like want to talk, like even just salespeople and stuff. And I'm just like, I'm working right now.
mhm. We had a
But
gentleman that came in all the time. We were open for 3 years, I think we were open. We had a gentleman that would come in weekly, and he would bring his dog in because we were okay with him bringing his dog in. I swear he probably came into our shop probably 100 times, never spent one penny. But he was the nicest guy in the world, and he would come in and we would play with his dog, and it was wonderful. He was just coming in to have a chat, you know, and it's difficult when and this is why I hear a lot of nightmare stories about, oh, this fish store owner is so mean. I don't think anybody ever said that about me, but I'm saying you hear stories like that online, and I sympathize with the store owners, because it's like you just got done writing a $2,700 check to the IRS, and then the filter broke on that, and 4 of your fish died. You got that tank over there that's getting ready to leak, and then you got to put all of those other fish away. You're losing your mind, and that's when a customer comes in, and you have to put on a happy face. Can I help you? That's tough. That's real hard, and that's probably why a lot
it's
of fish
like,
store owners
I
are
want
in
an
bad mood.
Oscar and a 20-gallon tank, and
Right.
I want an Oscar and a 20-gallon tank and some dechlorinator, and I'm taking it all home today.
Yep, that's it. Yep, it's tough. I mean, and
What? I can't do that. You're the worst fish store. I'm going to go give you a bad Yelp review.
yeah, and that happens too. Trust me.
Oh, I know, I know. Holly and I, like I said, we were photographers, and and to pay for our wedding, we shot weddings. Like I hate shooting weddings. Weddings are insane. Okay, the one, uh, not all women, of course, right? But a fair amount of ladies out there have been planning that wedding since they were 2,
Mm-hmm.
since they could say the word wedding, since they got their first Ken and Barbie and put
Yep.
them together and made them get. They were in their mind, they were working out how that perfect day is going to work out, and so most of them went fine. Um, I found I'm personable enough to navigate, those scenarios and stuff, and I know how to do it. But we have one bridezilla, and she threatened to sue us, and I don't remember why. Like I missed one photo. I missed a photo of her grandma. Like her grandma wasn't with the group when we did the group photos or something like that, and because of that, she wanted to not pay for any of it, and so it was one of those kind of really stupid, freaky scenarios. And she had some lawyer at work, so she was like trying to bully
Oh.
me to this lawyer at work. So I got a better lawyer, and we took care of it. But it's like
Good for you.
mine's not just my lawyer doesn't just exist on stationery. He will physically come over and have a talk about it. But
Nice.
anyway, so uh, help me with my divorce too.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, anyway, so yeah, I think the brick and mortar thing. I miss having a studio. I miss going to a studio, and man, if I had a studio now, boy, the stuff I would do. It'd be wall to wall green screen. There'd be 10 of me dancing, and there'd be all kinds of stuff. But the fact is, I just can't afford it. Like it's just more headaches, it's more problems and stuff. And I personally, I maybe when I hit 300,000, maybe I'll think about like getting a little space outside of this stupid house to do things in. But but I'm glad to see that the stuff's going well. So do you keep all of your retail items there? I had another question about yeah, in the retail space, how important is it to offer more than just the fish? Like all the other stuff, all the dry goods and all the other things. How important is that?
I am going to be honest. I would have been happy if we didn't start selling fish. Like, I don't mean that sounded wrong. What I mean is, I would have been perfectly happy just selling dry goods and having never started selling fish. It was Lisa's idea to start selling fish again. I love doing it. And I love packing the fish up. And I love getting the emails from customers that say, "Oh, we got our fish. It's amazing. Thank you." It's awesome. But the dry goods never die. They don't need heat packs when they're shipped. They don't have to be shipped overnight. So from a retailer standpoint, selling dry goods is what makes the most sense because of everything I just said. You don't have to worry when you send it out the door. Okay, is it going to make it there okay, or is it going to sit on a tarmac and freeze? And we've had that happen. Um, so, but like for me, I think that one of the benefits that we do have is that somebody can buy their new fish and get the food for them and get the catapales for them and get all of that all in one shot, as opposed to ordering the fish from us and paying a handsome amount for shipping because it's just the nature of the beast, and then have to go somewhere else and pay for shipping again to get all of the other stuff. So for us, it works out really well. Um, but it's a completely different deal when you start incorporating live animals because you have to take care of them and you have to feed them and you have to, they sometimes things don't go well and all of that. But um, I'm glad we started selling fish, but it was Lisa's idea, not mine.
Well, I imagine Lisa's a lot like Holly, and that they're sometimes they guide us guide us to decisions that
Ah,
for Holly at least. I mean, they usually work out for the best. Like she almost never has a bad idea. So
of course not. Lisa's
that's
original idea was she wanted to breed them
okay.
and then raise them all up and then sell them. And I'm like, okay, we've
It's a
been
long
there
process.
before. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, breeding bettas is not like the hardest thing in the world to do, but it's also not the easiest thing in the world. Not like African cichlids, but you know, I was telling her right then and there, you know, we're never going to be able to keep up with demand. It's going to be so much work. You know, we might as well bring in some fish and sell those. We've got a couple of dealers that we deal with that are amazing. And, you know, while you're getting your breeder operation established, we can bring in these other fish to kind of fill the gaps. And we haven't bred any fish yet because we've been so overwhelmed with selling all of the ones that we buy from other people. But that's how the idea started. Was she wanted to breed them, and then I added my 2 cents, and she hasn't bred them yet.
It's definitely a fun project. I haven't seriously tried that. I threw a male and a female in my pond once just to see if I magically ended up with fish. Birds ate them or something.
Oh, jeez.
They just suddenly weren't there anymore. It was like, oh, maybe they're too brightly colored or something.
Right. Well, and they're always hanging up at the top. Yeah, that's kind of sitting ducks.
So anyway, but the process is just such a long process that you'd be in danger of never being able to sell any fish because you're just always waiting on babies. And then as soon as they come up, they'd be gone the next day. So it'd be months and months of waiting just to sell them that way.
Yeah, and the other side to that too is if we breed, let's just say black samurai bettas, which are amazing. I mean, they're breathtaking.
Yeah.
But that's all we would have because they're going to have spawns of 300 fry. And so we've got 300 black samurais available. There was no way we were going to not be bringing in fish from someone else too, you know, to be able to offer more than just one kind of fish. So how long does it take to sell 300 black samurais? And should we stop breeding them because now we've got too many? It's just too much. It's easier. Bring them in from somebody else, sell them. Everybody's happy. And it's less work doing it that way too. I mean, you're not changing water every single day in baby, you know, fry tanks. So
have you ever toured one of the places where the fish come from?
I have not a betta farm, but I've been to farms, but not a betta farm.
I guess in 2019 we went to Seagrass Farms in Florida. Have you heard of them?
Of course,
you might have heard of them. Yeah. And they that's where the glowfish comes from. They breed them there, and I was surprised that it wasn't some weird alchemy.
Right.
They're sitting there like, I have new or something. I pictured these jellyfish, and they're like injecting the stuff into them. But no, they use DNA strains like from jellyfish DNA and some other stuff, and they actually breed them, which makes it like, I don't know. If you're a purist, you probably still hate it, but I thought it made it a little bit better. It's not like the old days where they like literally tattoo them and shit.
Right.
You know? But they, for whatever reason, I don't know what the deal was at the time, but I wasn't allowed to film in there. But I was still happy to like do a tour. So me and Holly and Kerrigan went around and saw, and I was amazed. Like, what an operation. Oh my gosh. I mean, just like thousands and thousands of fish and conveyor belts and stuff. And that, like the whole way that they ship things, it's a real operation to sell fish on that scale.
Yeah. I've never been to Seagrass. I have been to other distributors and seen Seagrass is the Amazon of fish distribution, you know, so there's nobody that compares to them. But I've been to smaller scale operations, and then I've been to farms too. And I don't know if you've actually been to an actual fish farm, but that's a whole other thing that is just an amazing thing to see. But none of them are going to compare to what
video tours, but I've never been to one.
Yeah, we went down to Old World Exotics in, I don't remember when it was, and it was so much fun. We spent all day there just walking around. Didn't get a second worth of video footage because I'm a moron, but it was an amazing thing to see, just to watch it happen. All of that, it's awesome.
You okay?
I got something banging up against my garage door. I don't know. the wind is really loud out there today.
Oh,
I think I'm okay.
Sometimes it's better to just be in the moment and not have a camera up on your face. I tend to always have a camera up on my face, and I feel like, but you can sometimes Holly or Kerrigan will ask me about something afterwards, and I'm like, I don't know. I was like this. I was
Hmm.
like this. I was sitting there. I was thinking about, oh, here's the composition. Here we got a little bit of background, a little bit of foreground, and the lighting looks good. And so, like, my brain's doing all these other things that are, uh, you know, probably more artistic than analytical. So I feel like I miss a lot of stuff sometimes.
Well,
Uh,
and I've definitely been guilty of that, and that's like when I go to shows now, I when we first get there, I will not bring any stuff in. I'll just walk in just myself, and I'll probably the entire first day I won't film anything because I want to experience the event. I don't want to be walking around with the camera. Don't bother me. I'm filming now. I don't want that. I want to experience the event, meet the people, and have fun, and then bring my camera in the next day and get some B-roll and stuff like that then. But yeah, I don't want to miss those things. I've missed a lot of things because I'm focused so much, like you, on my camera. I'm not going to do that anymore.
yeah. Uh, it's funny with like thinking about conventions now because they're going to be starting up again. They're
A
about
couple
to
of
start up
months.
again, and I'm excited to go, but it's not now. It's not because I want to film anything. Like, I don't. I'm starting to get to the point where I don't care if I do. Like, I'd love to do a live interview with somebody. That would be kind of neat and different. But I don't. I don't. I don't know if I want to do a whole show video like I used to. I kind of lost the love of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the problem is, and this is absolutely not meant as any disrespect to any other YouTube channel. I love all YouTube channels. But the problem is there's going to be about 300 videos that are let's walk around Aquashella, you know. So how's mine going to be any better? It's just not. I made one for the 2019 Aquashella, and it is one of my absolute favorite videos that I've ever produced. And it did horrible because I mean nobody really cares to watch those. And I really think that
Yeah.
the majority of the people that watch those videos are people who went and they want to see a recap of what they already saw. It's one of those things that they don't get a lot of views. But having said that, I love the video I made about Aquashella. I'm sorry, I love it, and it's just a shame nobody saw it. But but there's so many
I,
people that are making them. What are you and I going to do that's going to be different from everybody else? Probably nothing.
I feel like I spend a lot of my life asking that.
Right.
what what can I do that's different from someone else? And it's not like I know I take a lot of chances on my channel. I do other things, but
Yeah, you're the last
and,
person that should be saying that. Should be saying, "What am I going to do that's
well,
different than everyone else?"
I feel like I only say that. You know what I mean? Like I remember when I did the clone video, which the clone. I mean, it's not like everything I do is super original either. I see things other places and I bring them into our version of the hobby.
Right. Right.
Like my whole idea with this is not new. I mean, a podcast or an interview or something. I mean, people have been doing that since whenever, But I did have a particular style that I wanted to go for. I really fell in love uh, with Joe Rogan, especially a few years ago, Joe Rogan, and the way he did the clips, especially. I was like, I want to do
Mm-hmm.
something where I like pull things out and put and I thought, oh, maybe they'll help the algorithm and stuff too because I don't produce enough. I was doing that one video a week thing, which I hear sometimes some people say the algorithm doesn't like it as much as producing lots of little things. It turned out for me, really wasn't much different. Uh,
It's
but
polar opposite for me, if you want my honest opinion. If I
yeah,
upload more than one video, I actually get punished for that. I can't explain it. I just know it's true. And that,
well,
that doesn't mean everybody would experience that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what it is. It's like I'm destined to only be able to do videos on Sundays and my live streams on Thursdays. When I deviate from that, things just go, and you can almost see it coming, which is weird. So the opposite of your situation.
Every time I try to do a live stream, I feel like something on my internet tanks. And it doesn't matter how much I spend on it. Like I'm spending as much as I can spend on fast internet. And I don't even really do live streams. But I did one with an Instagram one with George. George Farmer brought me in on some Instagram thing for Oase. And it died in the middle of that. And I've been on a live stream with you before, and it's died, years ago. And uh, I was doing that interview with Joey, and my internet just went all of a sudden. And I'm in IT. It's really embarrassing. It's like double embarrassing when it happens. I'm Peck low tech, I guess. Is what. But I more than that, I get vapor lock. Like I'm doing okay tonight, thanks to vodka and cranberry juice, which I know is a terrible example, right? But it's what I figured out is kind of like I get too caught up in my inhibitions sometimes, and and I'm not supposed to smoke things, so
So you'll never be Joe Rogan.
right. Not unless I move someplace that's a little friendlier, I guess, maybe.
Yeah.
But but I have weird anxieties and stuff. Like I have, like even going places and like getting around people and stuff. If too many people are kind of interacting with me all at once, I sort of get a little. I don't get like nervous and scared or anything like that, but I'll definitely freeze up, and I have to start trying to focus on a particular person and what they're doing and stuff, and that causes me to miss other stuff. That's why I always have a camera in my face. Is because when I do that, I'm nobody. I can just kind of blend into the background and just become that all-seeing eye, kind of doing stuff, and yeah. So I have trouble doing live streams. I've always had kind of an issue with it, not just because it goes out, but I'm always scared that I'm going to freeze, like, and just be talking. And you got Lisa like to fill in the gaps,
Right.
maybe when
Yeah.
you guys talk and stuff, or if I do an interview, I can just shut up and let someone else talk.
Mhm.
But
I mean,
man,
I never have a hard time coming up with things to say. I've been accused of being a bit long-winded, but that's just my nature. I mean, it's not hard to get me to talk about things. But you're right. Having Lisa to just kind of turn things over to her. We've got little signs that we can give each other that, if I need you to bail me out, I give her a little sign, and that, yeah, and it helps. But I totally get it though, because when you're live, thank the Lord this isn't live, but when you're live and you have the slightest bit of dead air, it's like I have to be saying something. There has to be. What am I going to do? And you start to freak out. Yeah, I totally get it. It's a scary thing, but I'm so used to it, and I'm so used to having technical problems. I'm just like, oh, whatever.
Yeah, that's the other thing that would piss me off too. Is like you get a little dip in your signal or something like that, and then suddenly you got a shitty video.
Yep.
That's with all this blurry or sounds bad or both. And with the technology I'm using here with Zencaster, it's recording both of us, and then it just sends me like locally on the computer, and then it sends me the files, so you get the best possible quality. And there's a lot of different products that do that. I think like Joey uses Riverside, and it does pretty much the same kind of thing. And man, it just seems so much safer than doing a live stream. Both because I won't like stumble over myself. I could edit out if I say something really dumb. I could just cut.
And that happens quite regularly with me. So you're going to have a hard time editing this video. That's for sure.
Oh, you've been good. I think you've done a good job so far. We'll see. I've got the really hard, pointy questions are coming. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh boy.
I'm just kidding. I did want to ask a couple of things that I've in watching your videos and stuff, I didn't understand. Um, what is a juiced cichlid? Cichlid.
Ooh, that's going way back. This would be a African cichlid. This is normally going to be with peacocks and haps, where the males and the females look dramatically different. They're like birds. You know this. I'm telling the audience. They're like birds in that the males are really, really pretty and the females are not so much. They're nice looking fish, but they're not bright and colorful. Juicing them can have two different effects. One can be it'll make the male's color pop real early, because a lot of times with the peacocks and haps, it'll take them, until they're like 3.5, 4 inches sometimes before they're really color really starts to show. The hormones is almost like steroids. It pops them, and their colors will really explode at a inch and a half in size. And then the other effect is that a lot of times it'll make the females look like males. They'll show all of the same qualities and the same colors as the males, which is complete deception. And people who have fallen victim of that, including this guy right here, it is a bad, bad thing to go through, because you think you have a male, you pay good money for a male, and it turns out when those hormones wear off, it turns out to be a female. But this is the juice. It's juiced, but it's basically hormones that is in their food that they feed them at the farms and stuff like that. And I don't think I'm the one that like claims that I created juicing. Like I call it juicing. I think I heard that from somebody else, but that's kind of what I've always said. If I hear a story of, oh, my peacock was a gorgeous yellow color and now it's gray, I'm like, well, that was the juiced female. That's why it is that way. So I've
It's
always
probably
said
from
it that way.
sports stuff. You probably picked it up from
Yeah.
sports things.
Exactly.
Now,
And it's a common practice, though, in the African cichlid community. I don't know anybody that's ever done it, but different parts of the world, it is a prevalent thing. And then they get imported here, and we have it.
so I guess the female could also like cause dominance issues and unwanted children and all these other things. It's not just that it's not as pretty too. It could cause some other real big issues, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've never really had any issues like that, like the females behaving like a male. I've never really seen that, but they just look like one.
Well, I
And,
mean, you got 20 males in there, and you throw one woman in,
oh,
one
that poor
female,
girl.
yeah,
Yeah,
and then suddenly they're all competing for her attention and stuff, or just trying
that's
to,
a recipe for disaster. You
yeah.
might as well just put that female on a frying pan. That's going to be easier for her than what she would go through in there.
I'm gonna eat you because I'm a good person.
Yeah, put you out of your misery, little chicken
I
nugget or
so
fish nugget.
I've seen, yeah, I've seen rams, blue rams come in, and they've obviously like they're way too young to be colored up the way they're supposed to be, the way they're showing, and I think the females in that get a little bit more colorful too, but it's not as big an issue, I guess. But
Not as big
that's
an issue
interesting.
with the rams. I mean, the with African cichlids, it's a huge problem because a female German blue ram is a beautiful fish, whereas a female African cichlid, or particularly peacocks and haps, they're just a gray fish. They're fine, but they're not that spectacular blue and white. And so people pay
Right.
$30 for this beautiful blue fish that 3 months later turns out to be gray. It's very deceiving, and it's wrong. And anybody watching this that does that, you are a bad person. I'll say it to your face.
So the internet's sort of a wash with bad advice or even mediocre advice and stuff like that. So when you go to find out something new, how many sources do you think are are reasonable to get, especially if you're in a position like we are, where you're going to have to impart that information onto a larger community?
Wow, that is such a good question. It's going to be, if I'm trying to learn something about fish keeping, it's going to be a lot. It's going to be a whole lot. If it's something where I'm just tuning in to hear somebody's opinion about something, it doesn't take long. Even if it's about like a filter, if I want to know about a filter and I watch one video of you, I know you, I like you, I respect you. You highlight the things that I wanted to know. It might be the only video I watch. I might not need to know. But if I'm trying to cure a disease in one of my fish, and I might watch yours and I might watch one from as many as I can find, and take all of that information, put it together. Depending on the scenario, I mean, I'm kind of a YouTube fanatic, which I know that's weird, but I would probably watch 10, 12 videos before I would figure that out. And I'm a very verbal and visual person, so I would do that before I would turn
Me too.
to video magazines or books or something like that. I learn better that way.
I started the fish hobby reading a lot, but I don't do that now. Like I feel like I do a lot of research in my job. I'm constantly trying to figure out how to do things, especially since all the people I worked with have been furloughed and they're
Oh
gone.
no.
But yeah, so but I do so much research, and it's all reading these white papers and really boring stuff, to the point where even things that are interesting for me are hard to read. And I've I always go down the route of videos. Unfortunately, I feel like uh, I feel like you need to watch. You could probably read 3 papers by scientists and be 100% certain in your standing. But the equivalent videos in that would probably be like 400 or 500 videos
Right.
before
Yeah.
before you can start to reach a conclusion. Because I feel like there's a lot of half-assed information, and I'm not saying that everybody else does that and I don't. Like, I've done book report videos basically where I buy a fish, I look it up on like 4 resources and do the best I can, and I still get people telling me, "It's like, no, that fish isn't from there."
Right.
It's like it said it was on those 3 web pages that sell them,
Yep.
and Fish USA or what, all
Some of
these
the
different places.
some of the highest levels of anxiety I've had releasing a video is when I've had to research something that I knew nothing about, and then I feel like I did my job, and I tried real hard and I got as much information as I could, but you still don't know for sure if that's a fact, and you put it out like, oh boy, I hope I don't get yelled at. Like you
Well, yeah,
said,
I mean,
no, it comes
I've
from this area. It's like, oh man, come on.
I do the best. I don't. I say, I try. I feel like I do a good enough job to where I don't feel like, like I want it to be at a certain level. I want to, and I don't give any information out. I don't think I've ever given any information out that was like really detrimental to a creature's life or something like that. Not that weighty. You know,
Right.
if it's from Indonesia or it's from Saipan,
Right.
it's hot there. What else do you need to know?
Yeah.
but the but the yeah, I'm not a biologist. I'm not a chemist. I'm just a person that really likes aquariums, and I try to convey that. And I feel like sometimes people put you on a pedestal where it's like, well, how can so many people be watching this guy if he's and not know everything, And it's funny because maybe a ton about um, Oscars, for instance, just to pull a fish out of my out of the background there, and but maybe maybe you don't know so much about white clouds. It doesn't
Right.
mean you don't know about fish. It's
Right.
just sometimes there's a lot of fish, and you're focused in one particular area or another. And I think everyone's like that. There and the people that aren't like that, they probably don't make videos.
Right.
I tried to get a couple of scientists, like legit biologists, onto the show and stuff, and they don't want to talk to a YouTuber.
Yeah. No.
Not even one, that's going to ask them intelligent questions. It's they just don't want to. They don't want to bother with us. We're that silly social media group, and I'm sure that they've been harassed by this person and that person, and they're like, well, no, see, I do this for a living, and you're some idiot. But yeah, it's tough, and there's a big thing that YouTubers have to deal with too, called imposter disorder. Have you heard of that?
Yes. Oh, yes.
I think everybody at some point is just like, I'm a fraud.
Yeah. I I can't say that I have experienced that, um, because I don't feel like I'm a fraud. I feel like I've made it very clear to everybody that, I mean, I'm just a dork with a bunch of fish tanks. I mean,
Right.
and I think most of us are that way. We kind of make that clear. I'm no different than you are. I'm not going to claim that I'm smarter than you. I don't care if I'm smarter than you. I just like keeping glass boxes full of water. I mean, that's just what I like to do. So I've never really felt like I'm guilty of being of experiencing imposter syndrome, but I have felt. How do I phrase this? I have felt fear that people think I'm an expert. Does that make sense? Like, I don't
Yes.
want people to look at me as an authority on Oscars, or because I'm not. I'm absolutely not. I know how to keep them alive. I know how to make them really fat and make them happy, but I'm not an expert on them. I can't tell you how to breed them. I don't want people to think I'm an expert on anything. And sometimes I fear that they look at it that way, and I don't want them to. So that's my fear. It's not necessarily imposter syndrome. It's more, I don't want them to think I'm an imposter. Or no, that's the opposite. I don't want them to think I'm an expert. I want them to just think of me as the guy
Right.
in his garage that has fish. So,
Well, for me, I think for me, I've never gone full blown. Oh my god, I'm so full of shit. What all this stuff I'm saying, I've been scared of it enough to study more, to on different things like that. Like so my big thing is, like, I'll put a plant. Like, I can't remember scientific names of anything, of
either.
anything. Betta splendens. That's as far as I go. there's a couple of, like, for me, like polyepterus is easier to say than Beischer sometimes, but
Right.
uh, so I talked to Rachel, uh, and she's just like rattling off these names, and when I hear her speak, I feel like I'm a rank amateur.
Yep.
Like, I was like, oh my god, like, man, I wish I could talk like that. Maybe I just should sit for a day with some cards and be like, beta splendus.
Yeah.
Just like little picture of the fish, and then I'd say what it is and like look at the back of it. Those probably sell
I
really
have
well.
so much respect for people that are able to do that. I'm so much the opposite of that. Corey is very similar to that. I mean, you know Corey.
Yes.
He has like a 12 core CPU up here with like 3 terabytes of storage. I mean, it's the things that he has retained is just mind boggling. And I mean, I've filmed with him before where I'm like, do you want to think about what you're going to say? And he's like, no, just push record. I'll be good. And he just comes up with stuff off the top of his head where I have to script it out and figure it out. Okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to lead into that. With him, it's just all off the top of his head. I wish I could be that way. And scientific names, forget about it. If I say a scientific name, it's because I literally, I researched it before I did the video, and I don't like doing that. I mean,
It could be written on my hand,
yeah,
and I would be like, I'm not going to try to say that,
right,
That's the other thing. Is like, it's not like when you read what they are, like that there's someone there pronouncing it for you either.
exactly.
I
And
talked to George when I talked to George Farber. Like the plants are the same way, right? And I'm probably better known for plants than I am fish per se, um, or whole planted tanks. But I'll put a plant in, and like if it's a new one that I've never seen before, I've forgotten what that plant is before the dirt's over the roots. All right, like I'll purposely I have to save all the little tabs and stuff, and on the videos, like the parts that I cut out, there's just me holding that thing up to the camera with like the name, the scientific name, so maybe I could add it in and I think, and then when somebody asks me about it later, what's it called? I have to go back to my old video and go scroll,
yep,
scrub up to that point and go find it. And now I don't do it. I just don't answer.
it's so funny that you say that because on our Sunday videos, I use a lot of B-roll, a lot of fish B-roll, and Lisa and I will go to fish stores and get B-roll of fish, and that's what a great place to do it. And so many people have commented like, "I can't believe how many fish you have." It's like, no, those are not all ours. These are at the fish stores. But the way we do it, and this is a rule, you have to do it this way. You start the camera on the tag that says the fish's name,
Mm-hmm.
and then you go up and you get the fish. So when I look, you're a Final Cut user, right?
Yeah.
When I look at my, I'm having a brain fart now. Where you have your library, where we have all of the little thumbnails of all of my B-roll clips, it's all the tags because that's the first frame. So I can see it and I can be like, okay, that's going to be the Boudico fried. That's the, Salvini's or whatever. I mean, and it's real easy to document them that way and all that. But if I didn't do that, half the fish that I put on there as B-roll, I wouldn't even know what they are. I mean, we're not all geniuses and have the photographic memory to know every single fish and all of that. I wish I did, but
I do it the same way, but I do it the opposite, where I film the fish and then I end on the tag.
okay. Well, see, I do it in the front so that
So
in the thumbnail in the software, the tag shows up, so that I could
yeah,
title
that
it
makes
stuff
sense.
like
Anybody ever give you a hard time? I got a guy yell at me in a small fish store. It was outside of town because I was doing that, and he thought I was recording his prices because the price is usually right there with it.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I think he thought I was recording his prices to share with people. I was like, no, I'm just doing it so I remember what the name of the fish was. And he's like, get out.
Oh my. No, we actually, we go in and we explain who we are. Sometimes we're lucky; they know who we are. It's like, oh yeah, I've seen your video, and that usually works out really well. But I like to get permission and be very clear. I'm going to do the tag. That's my way of documenting what the fish are, and then go from there. And I've never had anybody kick me out. The only issue we've ever gotten was from like customers in the store. They're like, "Are you going to be filming that all day? I mean, I want to buy some of those tetras." We've had that before, but never from employees at the store.
The weirdest thing I've had like that is I was filming this fish, and this was at my local store. I'm filming this fish, and I'm kind of going across the tank, with my phone. And this person behind me was like, I don't want to be on film. I was like, well, there's only an inch between me and this aquarium, so I think you'll be safe. So just randomly, I don't want to be on film. What's funny is when I shot conventions and stuff, I'd have people say that too. It's like, I don't want to be on film. It's like, you're out in public, so I don't give a
Right.
shit what you want to do or not.
And hello, it's 2021. You're on
Yeah,
camera everywhere, whether you like it or not. The weirdest thing I had with that, and I still
I'm
feel
making
bad.
you the thumbnail.
Right. I still feel bad about this one to this day because it was during COVID. And so Lisa and I went to a store. The store has 500 tanks. In fact, I think I recall telling you should go to this store when you were in the area for the big fish deal, but it was still a little too far away.
Oh.
500 tanks they have in there. It is a B-roll smorgasbord. I mean, you go up there, if you're a B-roll user like me, you can get all the fish you want. So I'm in there filming. And with my lenses, I don't get right up on the tank. I mean, I'm usually a foot away or so. And I don't move very much. I just kind of keep it in one spot. And I'll have to put my hand in front of the lens to show you. I'm looking at the viewfinder on the camera, and in the viewfinder, I just see this. And I'm like, I'm sitting here thinking something like, for whatever reason, the store employee is thinking, oh, he can't film those fish, and he's blocking me from filming the fish or something. So I back up like this. I'm like, what? And it was a guy that was a fan of KG Tropicals putting his hand out to shake my hand, and he put it right in front of the camera. And so it kind of threw me off guard. And then I had to tell him, I'm not shaking hands, the COVID thing and all of that. And I felt like a total jerk about it. Still to this day, I felt like a jerk. But it was like, come on, you're going to put your hand right in front of the camera. I mean, come on, like, use a little bit common sense. But yeah, that was weird. I thought I was being like blocked from videoing it, but no, just wanted a handshake.
My first big fish deal, I was interviewing Alex Winchell, who years later went on to make an incredible channel called Tank Tested.
Mm-hmm.
And he and I were doing an interview, and I had the camera set up maybe, I don't know, maybe 5 feet away, something like that, not super far away, and a light on and stuff. And I had a microphone, and I was going back and forth. And this dude just walks up between the camera and us and just starts wanting to talk. I'm like, hey, we're in the middle of an interview. And he's just like, oh, really? What are you talking about? I was like, well, why don't you stand 3 feet that way and you can watch, you know?
Oh, well, it's like, because you're such a superstar with the clones and all of that. You're such a mega star. People get intimidated and they lose common sense when they get around you. That's what it is.
So it's so strange. I guess some people just are not really aware of their surroundings or something like that. But there's just so many weird things happen over the years.
All the more reason to just leave the camera in the hotel room when you go to events like that. I mean, you're going to show up in videos anyway, if you think about it. You're going to show up in other people's videos.
I do my best. I will photobomb anything. My favorite thing to do now is like people, you ever see people at FaceTime in public? Like,
oh, I hate that.
I hate it. It's like, oh my God, speakerphone with video. I don't want to hear your conversation or something like that. But so every now and then you'll see somebody doing that, but it's a little too loud. So to hear it, they'll put it up to their ear, right? Then they got the camera facing behind them. And I'm just...
oh, I would just love to see that. Oh, that's hilarious. I love
doing
it.
The dance stuff. They're like, what are you laughing at? What's so funny?
I am going to have to be on the lookout for that now. I'm going to have to try. I very rarely go out in public, but I'm going to try to find that. I'm going to try that. That's fun.
Kerrigan and I both, we went to Disney World, and every time we saw a group photo happen, we just queue up right in there. I remember when she's a little girl, I'd hold her up on my shoulders and stuff, and she'd just be like...
Oh, that's awesome.
What's your biggest non-fish hobby interest? Like outside of the aquarium stuff, what's your thing you geek out about now?
Something that I have been considering calling you to talk about, but I have yet to do that. I've gotten into modeling.
Oh.
And it's not what
like nude modeling.
I knew you were going to say that, and I did.
You're a life model,
right?
Art school.
I said it that way on purpose because I wanted people to laugh. No, 1/24 scale model cars.
Oh, cool!
Yeah, that's what I've gotten into. I've had many hobbies in my lifetime. Woodworking used to be my thing. I'm kind of burnt out on that because I did it professionally for 20 years. And Lisa bought me a couple of models for Christmas. They're Coca-Cola cars. And I had never expressed interest in it. It was not something that, I had ever said, oh, that looks like fun. She just saw it and said, I think he might like that, and got it. And I started messing with those. And now It's actually right over there. Now I've got a spray booth and I've got, the whole deal, and I'm having so much fun with it. So right now I'm doing a 1972 Corvette, and I'm trying my best to make it look like the Corvette Stingray my dad had. So that's what
Oh,
I'm having
that's
fun with.
cool.
Yeah,
That
trying to
is
paint it
fun.
the
That's
same
a lot
color
of
and
fun.
everything.
Yeah, it's quite a road to go down, painting models and stuff. I've always been fascinated with war games, and I really like them painted more than like the gray plastic they'd be if you didn't paint them that way. Or in the old days, they were just metal.
Right.
Yeah, these metal things. Um, I painted cars and stuff too. I really got into. There's a board game called Gaslands, and so Gaslands is a real simple war game, uh, and it's the premise is that it's a far future. People have moved to Mars and made it habitable, and like the rich people live on Mars. It's a little bit like that movie Elysium, where they have
Okay.
that space station. So all the rich people live on Mars, and Earth is just kind of this husk. It's like this devastated husk, and all the rest of us are just scrapping away there. And so the biggest TV show, the biggest, most popular TV show on Mars, like they'd have TVs that far in the future, but the biggest popular TV show is Gaslands, and it's basically just this car warfare between the two cars. So what you do is you take Matchbox cars and you model them up with guns and armor, and you put little holes in them and stuff for bullet holes, and that's and those are the models. So now every time I go to Kroger, I'm looking at the damn Matchbox cars.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, but unlike other war games and stuff like Warhammer 40K and these other ones where it's a whole thing that you buy into, this is just a rule book and maybe some templates and dice, and you're going. You could even use cars that aren't modeled up.
Hmm,
But it's kind of fun, especially if you're a motorhead and you like cars a lot. So
nice.
that's
Yeah,
neat.
I know you've sent me some pictures of some stuff that you've done. I think you sent me one of a Hellboy that you painted.
Yeah.
And so I knew I didn't, when I said I was going to contact you, it wasn't because I knew you were into model cars. I don't think you are, but I knew you were into modeling, and it's no different than anything else. I mean, you're into different fish. It doesn't matter. We're all into aquariums. We could talk to each other about those. I knew my hobby is something that you would be familiar with, and I could get your advice on what spray booth to get. But it's okay because I already talked to the water box about that, and I already bought mine, so we're good.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he does a lot of stuff too. He's a neat guy. Did you do airbrush?
Yes, and that actually worked out kind of nice because I already had one because I used to repair leather furniture, and we needed airbrushes to spray the paints and stuff like that on leather. So
Really?
yeah, I already had all of that. Not the
Huh.
paints, but I
I
already had the spray booth or the spray gun and the compressor and all that. I already had all of that.
I need to. I have put off. I have an airbrush. I've never used it. And I've put it off for a long, long time. I still use rattle can spray, like for primer and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
then of course all my things are so small. I have to brush paint them on. But the I've been wanting to try an airbrush really, really bad.
I'm
Uh,
actually really frustrated right now because I'm working on that 1972 Corvette, and I totally screwed the paint up on it, and it's been sitting there for like 3 weeks. I haven't touched it because I'm just so frustrated that I messed the paint up so bad. But painting is a whole skill to itself, even with the airbrush. I mean, it, it's so frustrating because the paint looked so good, and I tried masking an area off so that I could paint the chrome edges around the windows and all of that, and it worked out
oh,
great. And then when I went to take the tape off, the paint came right off with it.
oh no!
So, but fortunately,
Very frustrating.
I was a finish repair person for 20 years, so I can fix it whenever I get to it. But I got to let the
Now you
hurt
just
get
need
off.
the ambition to do it to finish it off.
Right, exactly.
Well, John, it's been great talking with you. We're pushing it at like 2 hours or so, and I really appreciate you taking the time to come and sit down with me. Uh, cut your pizza time down to a short.
That's okay. That's
And
okay.
come talk to me. I miss you, man. I really do, and I hope that we get together soon. Maybe in Orlando. I don't know if I'll make it to that one or not. Um, our theaters, the company I work for, is they're reopening all the theaters, so I don't know if I'll get any time off this summer or not because everything's so in ramp up mode, trying to get everything going again. But I'm gonna see if I can take off and get down there.
That'd be
And if I
awesome.
do, I'll be sure to say hello.
Absolutely, of course.
I've always wanted to do a speaking engagement like that too. I'm so happy for you. That must be really exciting. Like I was going to get to do my first one. Yeah, go from goodbye to just talking. But I was going to do my first one at the Big Fish Deal last year. It was my first event where I got to speak. I was all ready to speak, and I almost went. And then I was pressured not to go.
Yeah, I remember talking to you about that. I think I messaged you to, are you going or no? We didn't end up going either. That was right at that time where there was so much of the unknown, and we didn't know, or
it's right at the beginning.
Okay? Yep, that was scary.
I'd just been in the hospital like a week prior to that. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah. I don't regret the decision, but man, that was going to be my one. That was my one chance to have a speaking gig. So hopefully I'll get to do that again sometime.
That's the only thing that's scary about this one for me is that it's almost like I'm going from nothing straight to Madison Square Garden. You know what I mean? It's like that's kind of how I look at doing talks at Aquashella. That's like big time, and I've never done it. This is going to be my first one. It would have probably been nice to kind of cut my teeth somewhere, in front of 10, 12 people. But hey, you're going to do it right, I guess. Just go all in. But I'm definitely excited about it.
I have a feeling you're going to do a great job.
Well, thank you.
You're going to do a great job.
So.
You're not ever short on words and stuff. You can fill in the gaps as you need to, I think. And then you got Lisa there.
Mm-hmm.
She's good looking enough. It doesn't really matter what you say, right?
That's right. She just needs to stand there, and that way everybody will stare at her and not me.
Just hold this fish.
That's
hold
right.
This betta. All right. Give Lisa a big hug and tell her I said hello. And
I certainly
you guys
will.
Take care of each other. And I'll be in touch with you real soon, hopefully.
Awesome. Thank you.
That's our awkward goodbye.
Goodbyes are always the worst.
Thank you, folks, for watching again. I'll be back next week with another video. Next week's video is Dee from Brooklyn. You're going to like him. He's a really neat guy. I'll see you then.